Press record for Facebook, all that good stuff. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And we are here at the beautiful Paradise Inn on Pensacola Beach.
That's right.
We could pan over and show you the Paradise Inn sign even. Look. Darn, 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 darn.
Right there.
There it is! Oh, that's a good view. We should just leave you on camera. It looks way better. You've got the better view out the window. Oh, man. So here we are in Pensacola, and I started bugging you because...
I wouldn't call it bugging.
Well,
you
yeah.
know, it's always good for me to hear from you.
I shouted out to you because I've seen all this stuff you guys have been doing on Facebook, which is awesome. You guys are making stuff happen. And you have always been a go-getter, and I would read your bio and accolades for you, but I bet you can do a better job. Catch me up. We'll catch all these people up on what's going on. And I think people will figure out that we know each other through the music world.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've been booking music in the Gulf Coast region for probably the last 5 years. I started out with a band called Hotel Oscar out of Destin. We made our rounds to the southeast, anywhere from as far south as Key West, as far west as New Orleans, far north of Chicago, and we made our rounds. I got the fortunate enough to be able to make some connections with the guys from the Revivalists that came through this area. Pensacola is one of their breakout scenes. They used to be playing up and down this exact same strip of the beach that we're sitting on about 8 years ago. And I got to book quite a few support acts for them over the years, which is really amazing. They're a great band, and I think everybody in this area wants to have the same story of success that they have, because they're definitely ones that went and got it and spent many, many, many years and many, many miles on the road to be able to make their success happen. And from hardworking musicians, we, you know, that's the story we like to hear. You know, They were not an overnight success. It definitely took a long time. You know, past that, I've worked with Nick in the Overalls. I recently was managing Post Pluto. Long live Post Pluto. Unfortunately, we're on a little bit of a hiatus right now. But and then about 6 weeks ago, I decided that it was finally time, after spending some time in reflection and figuring things out, to go ahead and launch my own entertainment company, which is Scent Entertainment Co. Got a new hat in.
Congratulations. I like it.
Yep. If you're looking for some new merch, it's going to be on our website here pretty soon.
Very nice.
Just a few weeks. Nice. Looking at some samples, picking out some colors, doing it. But generally, yeah, it's a booking agency at the foundation, but realistically, I'm really more interested in developing some of the undercard talent that we have in this region, particularly in the southeast, because you know, this is an area where we have so much freaking talent. I mean, like, the players that we have in this area are absolutely insane, and you know, there's a large void for someone to be able to come in and develop that talent to become something that that hits the road and becomes something that's more than what it is. And you know, I'm just here to add value and try and bring some new life to a music scene that has a lot of potential, particularly here in Pensacola.
That's awesome, man, and it's good to see you work. It's good to see you work. The of course, being a brass player, my ears perked up real quick when I saw that y'all were working with what was it? What was the name of the brass band from New Orleans?
We had
there are two of them. I always get confused.
Well, we had two of them back to back. I have a pretty good partnership with Chris Wilkes at Vinyl Music Hall, and you know, I've worked with the Rebirth Brass Band. Is probably the one that's perking your ears the most.
Yep, those guys are great. You know, how was that?
Fantastic. I've worked with Stu Chiat, who's the production manager over at the Howlin' Wolf in New Orleans, and he manages and oversees Rebirth Brass Band. Cool. And I remember meeting him back in the Hotel Oscar days. We did a lot of shows in New Orleans with them, and whenever they'd come through our market, we would always support them in our hometown. And then that was paired with John Hart, one of the best players here in town. Definitely, hands down, one of the most talented musicians that we have in this area. Yeah, has a new outfit called Big Jam Space Driver, which is like, you know, very snarky puppy meets Grant Green inspired, like instrumental funk jazz. It's very heavy, aggressive jazz music, and that consists of John Hart, Adam Cooper, Little Chris Spees from Lee Yankee and the Hells Yeah. He's currently on tour with Samantha Fish, who's killing the game right now.
Good.
It's also got Owen Finley, hometown hero.
Where is Batman?
Yeah, where is Batman? Batman, if you're listening, throw a comment on this post.
Heck yeah, man.
And then wrapping things up with Jonathan Ashley on drums, who's an absolute monster.
I think I know Jonathan.
Yeah, John's a great player. He's got a really, really unique touch to the way that he plays drums.
That's great.
And yeah, it's definitely admirable. But yeah, we had Big Jam Space Driver supporting Rebirth at Vinyl, and then actually the very next week, Soul Rebels, also from New Orleans, came into town, and Big Jam was also on that bill. And then they're going to be making their headlining debut in Pensacola, April 28th at Chizuko.
Yeah.
It's a new spot in town. It's a really cool hip vibe.
Yes, yes. I've done comedy there. That's another venue we haven't.
Yeah, we're actually going to be throwing our, like, the company's been launched for the last like 6 weeks, but people are just kind of starting to notice that it's on the scene, that it's like, you know, I'm making progress with that. But that's going to be like our official launch party. So
very cool.
It's got a really cool lineup. It's going to be Big Jam Space Driver headlining, Mobile's Yeah Probably as support, and a gentleman named Joshua Zook out of the Destin market as the opener for that show. So mark your calendars. Yeah, Probably is a great talent that I'm happy to be bringing through some new areas, particularly over here and towards the Destin, Panama City area.
Sean White and with Philbo Baggins.
Shay White, Philip Baggins. Yeah, Philip's a monster.
Excuse me, I apologize.
Oh, that's good.
I apologize to you, Shay, for calling you a snowboarder's name.
Yeah, it's Shay White, Philip Baggins, and Quentin Ayers, who was also a player in the Hotel Oscar days. And yeah,
Quentin.
Yeah, Quentin. He's a bad man with Jamma. He's bad man with Jamma. But yeah, they're going to be here tonight, actually, at Seville Quarter in Pensacola, doing a back-to-back night run. They'll be here tonight, tomorrow night, and then I've got John Hart filling out the Saturday to wrap up the weekend over there.
That sounds like a great weekend.
Yeah, dude, we got a lot of great music coming up. Whole lot of stuff coming.
That's awesome. That is a very, very exciting thing. Just to see more people picking up the mantle and getting into homegrown music. I see it as part of an overarching trend in the way that media is controlled. You know, with the fall of these big industries and radio programming and going more the way of independent companies and independent labels and independent studios. And
yeah, it's interesting how that happened, because you know, if you were to rewind 20 years ago from today, you know, as far as particularly on the side of record labels, there was probably 4 to 5 times the amount of labels back then, and then slowly as the years went by, all those record labels were bought out by bigger conglomerates. But when the conglomerate companies get so big, ironically, it opens up more doors than it closes, because it allows a whole nother market from what I would call the undercard status of music scenes to start making more of a difference. Because, you know, once you're bought into the system, you become the system to a certain degree.
Right.
You know?
It's very true. It's very true. Well, and it's part of the cycles of everything that we see this concentration of power that just ruins art for a little while, or at least it seems to ruin art. I'm putting a chokehold on it, but technology seems to have helped all of us find a way through the limitations of Nashville or any of these other scenes. You know, I'm pretty keen on what Netflix is doing these days. Between Netflix and YouTube, I get a lot of my media from just those two.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, Netflix has definitely made a lot of moves, and I feel like everything, you know, in terms of media is just all about, like, and I think just generally in life, like, instant gratification has become such a thing, and so everything is kind of moving towards that platform. So, I mean, I remember when Netflix originally was just a system that was designed where you got mailed DVDs, you'd watch them, you'd return them, and you had like a little queue, and you know, it'd do that. And I don't even know if that exists in their platform anymore. It might, but I don't know personally anybody who uses it for a DVD service. I mean, it's all gone to streaming.
Right.
I mean, hell, about, you know, life, music, and everything in between, and you know, we plugged up a camera, got a microphone going, and 30 seconds we're here and talking. Voila, that's how it works. Welcome to the future, people.
Welcome to the future. Welcome to the future. I enjoy it, though. I enjoy the fact that the being able to contribute to documenting history. Like, I've been thinking a lot about how constrained we are by fake news. like just bad science.
Well, you don't mean the type of fake news that the term that gets thrown around these days quite so much.
A little less the comedic version, and more the. It's really hard to cut through the noise of just poor reporting and biased science, and get to good information. It used to be more qualitative. Now, in the age of massive amounts of information, it seems to be quantitative. In that it doesn't matter if it's all the most polished sources for your science.
Oh, yeah, and the science pretty much gets thrown out the window to begin with, like, especially from the journalistic standpoint. Like, all the outlets that used to report news now report opinion-based facts.
So
That's what I truly call fake news. When you can report some facts, but then when you meld it with a slanted opinion, then the facts are no longer really the facts. They're facts that are leading into a conversation that you're dictating. You're controlling the narrative at that point.
Well, and who are all these people that thought they could just have their own stations and their own shows and be Jon Stewart without being funny? Like, infotainment is not tainment without jokes, funny, haha.
Well, yeah, and it's very hard to be able to follow and suit with the way that John did things. I mean, Jon Stewart was the man.
Right. And who over at Fox thinks that they're really doing anybody a service? I don't know. I saw a headline today that Trump was bragging about feeding the whatever Trudeau from Canada bad information in a meeting. Like, he was admitting to lying to the guy and pulling one over on him. It's like, oh my God, I have to read about
this. I don't think that he has problems with, like, admitting the fact that he stretches the truth. I think he kind of, like, prides himself to that, I feel like. But I don't know, I try to stay away from too hardcore of the political side of the game to a certain degree, although, I do feel like there are definitely some opportunities, we'll call them that.
Yes.
For improvement.
Oh, yes. There are plenty of them.
That's the nice way that I can say things.
I find myself just being lost on the whole policy standpoint of any of it, and it's just, I'm just kind of abhorred at how okay everybody is with lying.
Yeah.
It's like we can't keep this up. This isn't good for anybody to just have to wade through all this knee-deep lies every day. Yeah. Like, can we just cut to the truth and try and figure out how to make everybody happy? Because everybody wants the same thing, I think. It's not that complicated. But all this infighting and pitting people against each other, and it's, oh, it's gone. It's run amok.
It is run amok. It's run amok. It's one of my favorite terms. I love the phrasing run amok.
I see a gaggle of geese or some small birds when I think of run amok. Like the kind of birds that when they're running from afar are cute, but when they're running at you are terrifying.
Yeah.
Like, that's running amok.
I don't mess with geese, man. I lived in Nashville for a few years, and, man, I'll tell you, the geese over in Nashville do not play.
Why is this?
I have no idea. I don't know.
Sounds like there's a story here, Chris.
I don't know what people did to them. I don't know.
What did they do to you?
They didn't do anything to me. I would see a lot of people get chased away. I don't know. I feel like every city... I guess I haven't really had an outworldly bird experience while I've been in Pensacola, but definitely when I was going to school in Orlando, I actually I went to Full Sail for bachelor's in music business. I'd always had an interest in music from a young age. I DJ'd for 38 Radio out in Seaside when I was in high school, up until I left for college, and then got my bachelor's in music business and moved back and stayed in town for a year and then left for Nashville, and then realized that, while it's great to be like a part of a scene that's already moving, there's only so much that you can contribute to a scene like that.
True.
And Nashville is, it's an amazing town for music in some ways, but at the other side of the game, Nashville as a town in, like, I always use the term undercard, and generally when I say that I'm talking about like the working class musicians, if you will. And Nashville has a very jaded mentality. It's a lot of amazing players that play on Broadway 12 hours a day for tip money, generally, and small hourly wage. But they literally play a 4-hour set. They move to another bar down the street. They do another one, and then they do a late night one after a couple hours break. And then you've got your singer-songwriters, which, you know, that's where a lot of people, I think, go to Nashville to be able to pave the way for their success, is to try and go the singer-songwriter route. But the truth is, in Nashville, singer-songwriters, you know, you've got dime a dozen. I mean, everybody in Nashville wants a publicist deal and is trying to publish music and songs and write that next, you know, country hit. And, you know, but in Nashville, there's a lot of really cool, like again, you know, the working class musicians. There's some great bands out of Nashville. It's just unfortunate that when you get into a climate that's that competitive, it's very hard to exist, especially financially speaking, as a band, to play in a market that has so much competition. Because when you have so much, you know, it's basic economics. You have so much supply, the demand is very, very low, because they have 8 million bands in Nashville, or 8 million solo artists they can pick from, and that makes it to where, as a musician that's trying to do it full time and really trying to make a living off of it, it makes that a struggle, which is, you know, particularly for here is where I see, and it's why I have a lot of time invested, particularly here on the Gulf Coast and in Pensacola, because, you know, on the other side of that game, I am interested in not only working with bands in Pensacola, but trying to find bands from outside of the city to be able to bring in. You know, I'm looking at trying to find the best bands from a city that's within, you know, 3 to 4 hours of here. You know, I'm trying to bring acts from New Orleans into Pensacola, acts from Mobile, particularly into Pensacola, Tallahassee, the Central Florida market, where, you know, things get a little bit more competitive, in Tampa and Orlando, where they have, you know, similar situations, because bands can come through, and this is a town and a region that, you know, the people really appreciate music. They do, but I do find in some degrees are bands that get stuck in the same cycle, where, you know, they play, you know, a lot of the same places pretty consistently. There's not a lot of momentum moving forward, and then on the same token, there's not a lot of, you know, promotion that's done for themselves as musicians. You know, the days of bands printing flyers and having them up at their shows, you know, a month or a couple weeks in advance before they come, have kind of like faded. And I feel like, particularly in this area, it's kind of twofold. You know, you've got so much need for live entertainment based off of the, you know, the tourism and the market that we live in. Right. So, you know, the pay is pretty substantial for a band that might not have made a break or played a major music festival, or, you know, have 3 albums out right now or anything like that. But it kind of does a couple things. You know, the venues or some of the bars treat bands like entertainers and not as artists. And on the other side, bands don't promote their shows like shows. They're looking at them like gigs. And when those two things happen at the same time, it's non-stop. It's bands not putting forth effort to be able to promote shows in a correct way to make it a real show. And then on the other side of things, you've got, you know, bars that bring them in and really are looking for, and not to say that the performance is any lackluster. The performance is definitely there and the players are there, but it's just the concept of they're looking at an artist as an entertainer and not as an artist that's protecting their art form. Right. Which is kind of like where I'm wanting to really try and make some work into, because, you know, I feel like that's I feel like over time that will become the standard, if it hasn't already become that way right now. And, you know, you have to add value to change things. And I feel like if a collection of just to make noticeable moves and really start to promote shows, then it triggers other artists to look at that and go, that's the right thing. I want to do that. Yeah. And once it starts, you know, it makes the market more competitive, to where, you know, it makes other bands have to do that, because if they don't do that, then, you know, if everybody starts to promote their shows the right way, then the ones who don't will fall to the wayside to a degree, and and the choice will, it's survival of the fittest in that way. And that's something I definitely would like to see more of, and that's why, you know, when I decided I wanted to do Sound Entertainment Company, I didn't want to be a guy that simply made phone calls. You know, I want to add value for the artist and for the venue, you know, because it's a hand-in-hand thing. I feel like sometimes, and even as an agent, you know, you have to always think about both parties that are involved, and, you know, we work as hard as we can for the artists that we represent or manage in that degree, and it's always about, you making sure we get the best opportunities for them. But on the other side, we also have to be gracious with the houses that host these bands, because it has to make sense for them as well. And that's kind of my challenge for myself, and definitely the expectations that I have for the artists that I'm working for or working with. And that's that we, as a unit in this music scene, need to step our game up to start to make headway and make things happen, to kind of change the stigma of the way that some of the music happenings kind of work. But again, like, this area is rich with amazing talent. I mean, I could run off 12, 15 bands in this area that I love that are hands down better than some bands that are regional touring acts that kill it, that are doing. And the difference is that side of the business are promoting and really presenting yourself as more than a group of guys that play music together. It's an entity. It's a brand.
Yeah. Brand, that's the hard thing. People sometimes people get confused about what brand is, I think, and they don't live it. Like, it's pretend for the moment, as opposed to owning it. And the best brands are the ones that you're like, well, of course that's your brand.
Yeah. And that's why, like, when I decided, it took me, honestly, I'd say that was actually the biggest holdup for me really getting like a company started, was what in the hell do I call it? And when I started working with Post Pluto and I moved out to Pensacola, and I had been running bands through this market. I mean, that's how I met you, out in Orange Beach, Perdido, Alabama. When I was thinking about what I was going to name it, when I first moved to Pensacola, I got with Post Pluto, and they were the first band that I think I ever worked with that I would have clearly defined as a jam band. Like a straight jam band. And with that culture of jam scene and melting face guitar solos and length of instrumental breaks without vocals, and being in the festival scene, you're always familiar with the term send it, bro.
Yeah.
Get out there and send it. So, as I like kind of got more involved in that side of music, because it was something that was new for me, I started to be able to have Post Pluto at Swanee Halloween, and they had played there before, and that opened up a whole new realm of music for me going to that festival. And if you haven't been to one, dude, that is hands down the best music event I've ever been to. Every time I go back, it is, again, the best thing that I've ever been to.
I just have to do this one, apparently.
The experience of Halloween is absolutely amazing. But, yeah, that concept of sending it, like, literally kind of, that was where I got it. It's actually a little funny annotation, too. Like, Jeffrey Smith, our keyboard player on Post Pluto, he was a skateboarder, and I would always, give him a little flack about, like, being the bro. Like, he would always say sick. And if... So, Scent Entertainment Co., the acronym is SEC. And if you say it out loud as if it's a word, it is sick. So there's some puns on puns on puns. Then obviously, the logo, itself has the wording with the rock hand above it. So it's all encompassing, and it all comes back to a little bit of homage from, like, my Post Pluto days. And those guys were definitely a big inspiration for me to really try and get out there and really do the damn thing. And I miss every day of working with that band. I actually I really hope we can come back at some point. Hopefully not too far away, and actually do some, like, a couple pop-up shows, even if it's not something where, we're gonna go back to full-time gigging, 5 days a week or something like that, or hit the road, that we can at least come back together. Because, I mean, we released an album, literally, the last show that we did was our album release. So when we figured out that things were going to be changing, the biggest conversation was, we have so much material that we've never put out, that we've played at all these live shows, and we want to release it to everybody that's listened to us over the past year. So we cut a live record at Vinyl Music Hall. Actually got those guys to give us the room on an off night, and we went in there under closed doors and cut a record front to back in a day.
That's great.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Sorry, people, we're adjusting our parking spot here.
Yeah, you don't have to quit on my account. We're just people are giving me funny looks about the parking space, so we're gonna turn around.
Are you sure they're not just giving you funny looks?
And that's because I smoke a lot of pot and I'm paranoid.
Well,
that's okay.
Checks out.
It does.
That checks out.
That, and we're going to turn around so we can put the camera on the pretty view for a minute.
Yeah, we're just gonna
look, people's dogs.
Oh,
Goodness
doggos.
gracious.
I'm a big avid fan of the doggo. Dog memes are life.
What? Say that again? Doggo?
Yeah, doggos. Are you familiar with the term doggo?
No.
D-O-G-G-O? I don't know. It's kind of like a internet meme culture type situation. It's kind of hard to describe, but it's a lifestyle.
I believe you.
Could you tell by the conviction in my voice?
Yes. Yes. So I'm going to sneak into this little corner over here. At least this way, if people give us funny looks. Now, look, I've taken up less than a parking space. People giving me a hard time. I think I saw a comment from Ryan Balthrop.
Oh, Ryan Balthrop? What's up, Ryan? Ryan Balthrop's the dude. Finley. I think...
Hang on, back up. Say that one more time. You think you met Ryan Balthrop through Owen Finley?
Exactly.
Just so we can get that on YouTube.
Yeah. I met Ryan Balthrop through Owen Finley. I think I've met so many incredible musicians through Owen Finley. I feel like Owen is the sit-in champion of the world.
The sit-in champion of the world. I love it.
It's actually really funny. Some friends of ours in New Earth Army, this guy Michael Flato is he puts on a music festival in Fort Walton every year called Rev Fest, and Owen is playing with 3 different acts on the festival. It's a one-day fest, and Owen's on 3 different acts, and I know he definitely has his eyes on sitting in with, like, you know, maybe a 4th or a 5th. So there's a very large humorous thread on Facebook where I had photoshopped Owen's face over the entire lineup and dubbed it Owen's Rev Fest. Owen's Rev Fest 2018.
That's great.
But
That's
yeah,
great.
Owen's the jam, dude. He's the man. The man with the plan.
That's awesome. Man, I'm still getting used to my hair getting caught behind me. Yes. Owen, the last time I was hanging out with Owen was over at the Brickyard in Mobile. He's playing with Yellowhammer and some of those cats.
The Dolphin Street Sound Squad.
Yes.
Yeah, they've been doing some cool things
All
over in
those
Mobile.
guys.
I won't lie, like watching you know what Ben Jernigan and the crew over there have been doing have got me thinking. Definitely when I first met those guys, I was like, you know what? We can do this in Pensacola.
Oh, hell yeah.
You know, it's one of those things, and I feel like the market here is gearing up for something that's bigger like that. Vinyl Music Hall is killing it with bookings.
Are they?
Oh, hell yeah.
I don't get to make it out to many shows. Well, I'm not a big show person. I'm more of a sit in the car and talk to people kind of guy. But
I like to go to the shows, and I'm the kind of guy. It's really funny, like especially if I like to go to shows with musicians, because as musicians we watch music differently.
Yes.
Like I'm the guy that I'm not the rail rider at a show. I'm not going to be the guy that's going to be standing at the very front, like,
yeah,
you know, doing the thing.
Me either.
I'm going to be as close as I can to the soundboard, because I'm not only watching the band, like I'm watching what's going on
behind
the
here,
scenes. Yeah,
right?
like I like to watch, you know, I like to watch sound checks. When I go to festivals, I like to go to the set, like, you know, 20 minutes before start time, because I like to see the scramble to get things set up in that, like, 20-minute break in between bands to be able to get things set up.
The real magic.
Exactly. Particularly, you know, a band that, you know, Gordon Frank had introduced me to is Humphreys McGee.
Yeah, Humphreys is
Oh, man.
incredible.
Incredible. Holy hell. But their lighting director, Dave Waffle, is like a god among men when it comes to, I mean, have you seen an Humphreys McGee show?
No, again, I don't make it to a lot of shows.
You don't even have to see it. Humphreys is really cool because a lot of times when they're on the road, they do full live streams for free. You can stream it on YouTube. You can watch it on your TV if you have Chromecast. And it's the full show in straight, like, beautiful HD, and you can watch every second of it. And it's not the same as being there, but it's pretty damn close. I mean, I've definitely watched some Humphreys McGee streams from, you know, my couch tour.
The couch tour.
Tour. But yeah, Dave's the man. Like, watching that guy work is incredible. Lighting is something that I've developed a stronger and stronger, like, interest in, especially over the last couple of years. And I actually do have, like, my own, like, moving head kit that's got some good power to it. I mean, it's
Nice.
not the most, it's not anything that's gonna like fill up a civic center or anything like that, but especially when I bring it into some like smaller mid-sized rooms, it definitely can turn some heads.
Makes a difference.
It's a lot of fun.
Makes a difference.
But yeah, watching that guy, he's playing an instrument that's, you know, I'm not going to say that it's as intricate as playing the notes that Humphreys McGee do on guitar, but it's damn close.
It's every bit as valuable.
Yeah.
It's a different skill, but it's a skill nonetheless. Because being able, in a way, it's the bridge between good music and people that are hooked in this gotcha, quick news feed, you know, social media mindset of we need sound bites. Because you can take an extended solo and with the right lighting application, with the right visual applications, you can make it easier for that musician to hold an audience's attention.
Yeah.
Which that's a huge thing, to be able to aid someone who is already doing something that's so phenomenal. Like, first off, a guitar player shouldn't need any help holding the audience's attention, and it's sad that we have to discuss this in this day and age.
Yeah, well,
that being said,
I feel like some of that has to do with, you know, the real artists don't have that problem, because the real artists have their audience. Like, their audience appreciate them for the art that they do.
Right.
And a lot of times, I mean, you're always going to have the people that have that tendency to lose their attention, or to, you know, be that guy on their phone in the very front, or, you know, you're always going to have those people at shows. You're not going to be able to avoid that. But for the most part, you know, the legitimate artists that are doing it with, you know, truth and dignity, not to sound too noble about it, but, you know, like, those are the artists that are going to have their fans really, really pay attention. You know, it's not going to be.
I think that comes down to honesty and sincerity, and there are definitely artists out there that get it done, but there's way too much faking it these days.
I agree.
That's problematic, and it shouldn't. It's sad that technology makes it easier for some people to fake it, but that gets back to the whole EDM thing. Like, I can't call anybody with a laptop a musician. I'm sorry.
Well,
I have my reservations.
I have a lot of. I agree with that statement to a large degree. However,
artist, sure. Musician,
well, but then there are some that are really, really awesome that do a combination of the two.
I've seen that happen. Guys that, like, there's a guy for a band called the Cat Empire that I love. And DJs that can live mix and loop back what's being played live on stage. That is an impressive thing.
There's a
that
band
is very
called
cool.
Iodo. It's actually, unless I'm mistaken, it's one of the members from the String Cheese Incident.
Oh, cool.
Who has his own electronic project called Iodo. And that's what that's based around off. It's very live improvisation, but there's a lot of looping that's involved. The band Grizz is actually a DJ. He's really popular, especially in the festival scene right now. I actually got to see him at last year's Halloween, and he's a DJ.
How is he a band and a DJ?
Well,
that's where my brain breaks.
Okay, so maybe I should realign that a little bit. He's not a full band most of the time. He's a saxophone player.
Oh, okay.
So his style of electronic music isn't, you know, EDM. I feel like as a whole gets a really bad rep from a lot of the real trap, like, bass wub wub styles.
Yeah.
But as a whole, there's a little bit more depth to that genre than I think that people give credit to. And I'm not a advocate or a proponent of EDM. Absolutely not. Like, I think music is best when it's done organically.
Sure.
But there are some, and Grizz is like super funk based. I mean, like, there's a lot of really cool rhythms that are done. He does have a variation where he does play with a live band that's combined with his DJ aspect, but he is a damn good horn player.
That sounds interesting.
And his show is pretty outrageous.
That's like, I got to run sound for a guy named Ryan Visor one time, who plays trumpet and DJs. And does some of that same thing. So
yeah, there's some cool stuff out there. You have to dig a little bit deeper past the bullshit of what a lot of that is.
Yeah, and I think there's a group called Celestial, maybe,
I think so. I'm not familiar, but I've heard the name.
Yeah, no, and I don't know exactly what like how many people there are, if they record anything live, but you can tell by listening to it that they're taking what was performed music through an instrument at one point in time. Like they'll try to take a trumpet part.
Yeah.
Whether that was recorded live for their purposes or not, it's a real trumpet track. And they will take and then incorporate that into this mix. Now, whether that's one guy or a bunch of people doing it, I enjoy that more just because at some point somebody was actually playing an instrument.
Yeah.
I think that's really important for the connection of the internet and an audience and what goes on in those situations. Like the fact that Deadmau5 was able to sit down and drink a beer on a couch in the middle of one of his shows, be it funny, be it art, whatever. To me, that's a different kind of performance art. Like that's not what a live band does.
It absolutely isn't. But at the same time, it also is, a viable form of art.
It is.
It just comes from a different sphere and a different mindset.
If I were behind the soundboard, I'd dump a beer on it in the middle of that crap. But that's just me.
Yeah.
I don't have to buy the album. And that's okay. It's a different thing. It's a different form of entertainment that, as someone who, I've got a great appreciation for computer programming too, and I can see how there is an art in the ones and zeros, but there's just something different about having this external processor involved.
Did you ever hear of it was back in, I think he really hit the top of his game in maybe 2007, 2008 territory, maybe a little bit earlier than that. Were you ever familiar with or heard a name called Girl Talk?
Nope.
So Girl Talk,
comedy bit,
Girl Talk was very interesting because that particular DJ kind of changed the scope of how record labels looked at sampling and started to think about what copyrights truly mean in terms of, the original versus a derivation of that, a derivative of the original recording. And there's actually a record called it's called The Gray Album that I would suggest taking a listen to. It's actually really, really cool. So Girl Talk,
The Gray Album.
Well, yeah, so literally what it is and it's not just like, when you think of it, when I say it, it's going to sound very simple, but when you go back and you listen to it, you go, oh, wow. There was a lot of thought that was put into it. It's literally Jay-Z's The Black Album, sampled, cut down to, single bars, combined with the Beatles' The White Album. And it's complete new arrangements and new versions of both sides of material combined into a record together, which is actually pretty cool.
That's great.
It's obviously, there's some people that look upon it and they go, yeah, that's not original music. And you're right, it's not original music in its original form. It's definitely sampled, but there has to be something said about creativity and. Yeah, I mean, we all, and I say we all as as someone who works with a bunch of musicians, but even as musicians, there's only so many notes in a scale. There's only so much music physically that can be played. We all reference different things from the artists that we listen to. And naturally, that's a little bit more concrete because you're literally pulling samples from it. But, the comparison of the way that works isn't extremely far-fetched. People listen to chords, to riffs, and to their favorite solos, and they take bits and pieces of it, and they implement it in their performances and rearrange, and it becomes something that's totally new. On that side, it's an interpretation, and it gets a little bit more layered and a little bit more deep when it's done organically, and you can't look at it and go, yes, that is that part. You cut it from that song, like in an electronic sense. But yeah, it's a cool record. I would definitely recommend.
Well, and that goes back to branding. So a guitar player can put a brand, can put a stamp, like B.B. King had a lick.
Yeah.
Guitar players have a lick. They've got a brand, they've got a stamp, they've got a style. Does that exist in the EDM world? Can you through a computer put a fingerprint on something that other people can recognize? I imagine the answer would
There
be yes.
definitely is. Like
If
I
the
said,
art's high enough, right?
I'm not someone that's very in tune to EDM music. I can't claim to be any type of expert. I've seen some performances on some larger scale festivals.
Yeah.
I actually just saw one performance that I really liked. I saw Big Gigantic for the second time. The first time I saw him, I thought it was really rad. The second time, I just got back from Okeechobee Music Festival down in South Florida.
What was that like?
Really awesome, actually. It's a different atmosphere in compared to what I'm accustomed to through my experiences with Halloween.
Yeah.
The time of the year is different, obviously, so weather is a little bit different. But just being down in the south and in the you're getting closer and closer to Everglades territory down there in South Florida.
For snakes, alligators, you become further and further down the food chain. Is what happens.
But no, it was really cool.
Terrifying.
Some friends of mine run an apparel company called Grassroots California. Based out of their home office is actually in Colorado. They started in Los Angeles, moved into Colorado, and now they have another location in Chicago. And they had me and a friend down there helping out with some vending down at the festival, and we got to tail along with them and catch some really good music.
That's always fun, man.
Yeah, man. The top performer of the entire fest for me was absolutely a gentleman named Corey Henry. I don't know if you're familiar
Never
with
heard.
his name.
Do tell. Enlighten
Corey
us.
Henry has got to be one of the baddest synth players on the planet. This guy eats keys for breakfast. He started, well, I can't say he started with. The first time that I ever heard Corey Henry's name was in association with Snarky Puppy, which...
Is this the kid in the video that just torches it so bad that every other keyboard player with Snarky Puppy is just sitting there going, no.
Yes, it's that guy.
What the name of that song is We Like It Here?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's actually, I believe that's the title of a record as well.
I did not know that was his name, but I am familiar with his work.
Yeah,
because it makes an impression.
Yeah, Corey is a bad mamma jamma. Like, there's no other way to put it. But he's been so with Snarky Puppy, he's still very involved in their projects. When Snarky Puppy cuts a new record, he's there in the studio and he's doing work with them. But as far as like regular rotating tours, he actually tours with a group called Corey Henry and the Funk Apostles now. I know he's involved in Snarky Puppy shows when they do like really, really large festival bills.
Sure.
I've seen Snarky Puppy a few times. They're always a treat. And I love the concept of them to begin with. Like,
yeah, me too. I always have.
Because they don't do like the videos that you see from those are their records.
Right. And I love how they bring their audience into the studio and they bridged a gap that I think was missing for a long time, and that is the energy of a live recording, because you need an audience. It's just like in any other form of communication. It's a feedback loop, and you need every component of that feedback loop to get the highest potential energy yield out of it. And they bridged that gap. Not the first, but they did it in a major way such that they get recognized as one of the bands that brought it back in a big way.
Well, and they're definitely one of the ones that I feel like does it the most efficiently, for sure.
They make it look so good.
Oh, yeah.
So good.
Have you seen their, they have a record called Silva?
No, I hadn't seen that one.
It is probably one of the most masterful pieces of music that I've ever seen or listened to. Like, so Silva is not just Snarky Puppy. I'm pretty sure performs as a 14-piece band. I don't know what the
exact numbers.
I don't know the exact number. I also don't know how that would actually be said in a word. You know, you have quartet. What is a 14-piece band? Someone on Facebook, look up what a 14-piece band is.
I'll keep an eye out. Somebody
so we can figure that out. But so it's the core members of Snarky Puppy with Corey, and it also has I'm pretty sure it's about a 47-piece orchestra called Metropole Orchestre from France that's attached to them.
Yeah.
Because Snarky Puppy, they're actually distributed very heavily in Europe. They're
so this is straight up Trans-Siberian Orchestra.
Yeah, I mean,
like
it's
we went from jazz funk band to jazz funk orchestra.
Yeah, but it's still super true to Snarky Puppy. It doesn't sound like a orchestral performance in like a very classical way or traditional way.
I just remember Slow Demon. Like, I can hear an entire violin section when that dude tears into
there's some
that
incredible
one violin solo.
Little flute runs. I mean, they have all kinds of stuff in there.
I can hear it with the orchestra back.
And the way they
so
filmed it is beautiful too. Like every member of the band is wearing complete white from top to bottom, including the orchestra, and then the only thing that has color on the entire stage is Michael League's bass. And it's candy red. So it's just like, Sylva, Sylva. Definitely, they definitely, I believe they did take a Grammy for it in the jazz category. I'm pretty sure that Snarky Puppy has taken a Grammy for the last 4 records that they've released in a row. Yeah,
I do not doubt it. Just so cutting edge, so out there. And when you've got a camp that's producing guys like Corey, what do you expect? I mean, and he won't be the last. Like, there will be another phenomenon that comes out of that collective of musicians. Yeah, I think, because that's what collective of musicians do, is they just churn out phenomenon after phenomenon.
It's funny. Some people I know, I don't think I really jumped into the fray necessarily, but I do remember reading a thread on Facebook where someone said it was glorified elevator music, and I was like, what? And it was a musician that said it, and I was like, I understand that. Sure. You know, so it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but like, you have to be able to look at that and go, those guys are some of the most incredible players.
Yeah.
I mean, those guys are incredible. It's insane.
You can call it whatever you want, whatever, as long as they keep handing over Grammys.
Exactly.
You can make up a new category for it, as long as they keep handing over Grammys. Nobody gives a crap.
Well, it's different when a band like Snarky Puppy clean sweeps Grammys than, like, you know, and I'm not hating on the dude, but like, there's a difference between Snarky Puppy winning a Grammy and Bruno Mars winning a Grammy. You know? I mean, there's just a difference, and it's done in a pattern just consecutively time and time again. Like, it speaks volumes to like the caliber of musicianship and what the vision of that band is, and those guys are just out of the park. Awesome.
So fun. I got to see them once before the big splash. Slow Demon was that was the biggest thing that they had on YouTube, and I got to see him at that point in time. So it was like a month before everybody knew who the fuck they were. But I'm so grateful, because I was at this little place in Cincinnati called the Mad Frog, and it was such a small venue, and there weren't a whole lot of people that knew about him yet. So we got to hang out with him. Like, it was real chill, real relaxed, and got to spend time with him. And I talked to, I can't remember his name now, trumpet player, tall, skinny guy, really nice. Everybody I talked to in the band was really cool. They hung out with us out back, and that would never happen again. Like, you could never get that close to Snarky Puppy again without having serious connections.
Well, you'd say that, but so...
Well, or do they hang out in public still? Like, I imagine they're too busy for shit like that these days.
It happens at random, and it's funny that you say that, because, like, literally... I remember the first time that I was with Post Pluto and we played Halloween. We actually shared stages with Snarky Puppy.
Oh, cool.
They played later in the day on the same stage that we were on, and I remember walking into that festival and like thinking, you know, like, what are the bands that I wanted to see, and you know, when you play a festival, obviously there's some perks to it. You definitely get to walk in some places that are off limits to you know, the general people that are the general admission bands that go through. So, you know, of course, before we were leaving, we were talking about, you know, like what musicians we would love to meet, and you know, the top of my list was Michael League, because he does a lot of the arrangements for that band, and I just, the way that his mind works with music blows my mind. But so he was like the guy that I walked into. I talked about it the whole time. I was like, man, I'm gonna walk up to Michael League, I'm gonna shake his hand, like, I'm just gonna tell him how much of a badass he is. And so they played. It was awesome. Everybody, like, I went behind the stage and like got side stage, and everybody particularly from the New Orleans scene was there. I know Dave Shaw from the Revivalists was standing right next to me watching him. The guys from Trombone Shorty, the New Orleans Avenue, were all there. Grammatic, who's an electronic artist, was watching because he had shade stages too earlier in the day, and so did Sound Tribe. And it was just, everybody was all huddled up just watching the madness of watching them play, which is incredible. And I remember when they wrapped up, I was like, I don't want to be that guy. It's a little bit different not being like a musician that's on the caliber or working at the same, the exact same level as him. Sure. Just like walk up immediately after a performance and I want to have a conversation. Like, I try to be like, if I meet people that I know are really high caliber musicians, I like to have respect for their space, especially immediately after a performance. So I kind of coasted out. That we wanted to go see some other acts. And I really wanted to meet him. And then, of course, later that day, I get back to camp, and Gordon, the guitar player from Post Pluto, Gordon Frank, comes back, and he was like, so guess what, dude? And I was like, what? He was like, I was standing in line getting a hot dog at a vendor, and I met Michael League and his mom. They were standing in line behind me. That's and I was great. Like, get out of here, man. That was like the one guy. I wanted to meet him so bad.
Paid good money to be trapped in line with him.
Maybe it wasn't a hot dog. I think actually it might have been like some Chinese bowl. He was getting like an Asian bowl of food or something like that from a vendor. And I was like, of course, like you would just be, doing your thing, going to get some food at random, and would run into the guy that like I wanted to see the entire time. Him and Charles Bradley were the ones that I was really, and unfortunately Charles Bradley, 2 years ago he was billed for Halloween. He was also billed for Voodoo. He ended up having to cancel both because, and he was a part of Daptones Records, which is the same record label that held Sharon Jones.
Okay.
And Sharon and Charles were both diagnosed with different forms of cancer. And Charles Bradley's story is absolutely insane. He got signed, his first record contract came at the ripe age of 73. He was a James Brown impersonator in Brooklyn, New York for over 40 years. Just grinding. He lived with his mom, took care of her full time, had been doing that for over 30 years, and finally hit his break in music. And within, it couldn't have been more than 2 years, of him signing that contract that he had gotten a diagnosis. And so he had to pull, I remember it was like 3 weeks before Halloween in 2016, and he ended up having to cancel every single date. An entire tour got wiped out. Voodoo was pulled, Halloween was pulled, his entire Northwest tour was pulled, and he went in the hospital and was there doing chemotherapy and making the rounds towards recovery. And I just remember being so bummed out about it. And then the next year, right around February or March, his health picked up and he started releasing tour dates again. And then the summer came around and the Halloween lineup dropped, and he was included again on Halloween and on Voodoo Fest with a whole nother tour. Ooh. Again, 3 weeks before. Entire dates canceled. His health went right back down. And then immediately following Halloween, he actually died. And he was like, definitely one of the musicians that like I wanted to see so badly. They call his, the musicians that get like that hard, especially in soul music, always have like a surname, and his was the Screaming Eagle of soul.
The Screaming Eagle.
Yeah, the Screaming Eagle. And yeah, if you haven't listened to Charles Bradley's music, definitely give it a run. He is the man.
I will. I'm a neophyte in the music world. Like, I don't listen to as much music as I've worked around.
Yeah.
Nah. I've read way more philosophy than I've listened to music.
Yeah. I can't say that as much as I used to, at least in previous years, that I spend as much time as I was like just scouring different artists on Spotify or back in the day. I think the platform that I was using was a website called Pure Volume, which was very like you know, I actually grew up as like a punk kid.
Oh yeah,
in music. Yeah, oh, absolutely. You know, one of my favorite bands growing up was Against Me, which is a band that originated in Gainesville.
What?
They're like, you know,
Against Me. I feel like we need to phone a friend. Where's my little brother when we need him?
Yeah, right.
He would know. Like, I guarantee he knows this band. He took me to a Warped Tour one time. It was as close to punk I ever got. Bad Religion. I got into Bad Religion.
Yeah, I mean,
but that's
some cool stuff. I think what like I identified with punk music was just how like, and there was definitely some times where I delved more into the pop side of punk, and then there were times where I got more into like what I would quintessentially say is like straight punk music, and things that had more like old school vibes to it, like Social Distortion, Bad Religion, Black Flag, Misfits, kind of bridging into more like hardcore kind of things. Against Me though was like the quintessential Florida punk band, and I mean I remember seeing them I saw them at house parties. I saw them in a secret show in a warehouse in Orlando, where like you know, like when you think about punk shows, I always envisioned it, and I actually got to see it. You know, like where like kids are hanging from the ceiling rafters, and like you know the band's playing on like a 2-foot tall like wooden stage, and they have a Walmart PA, and like you know they're just and they're crushing it, and it's crazy because Against Me at the time when I saw that show, they were actually a successful band. The last time that I'd seen them prior to that, they were actually touring as support for the Foo Fighters, and they had come to Pensacola and played the Civic Center.
Oh shit!
Yeah, the Bay Civic Center. Actually, I got kicked out of their dressing room by Dave Grohl. True story. Maybe.
You got kicked out of a dressing room in the Pensacola Bay Center by Dave Grohl.
It was Dave Grohl and the tour manager for the Foo Fighters.
Hang on, let's straighten up so this guy can park right here. Hang on a sec. Hang on. This parking lot's filled up because the band that you hear in the background is tearing it up. And so we're gonna make
Anthony. We're down here at Paradise, Pensacola Beach.
So
Anthony just started probably about
just a few
here
minutes ago.
26 minutes.
There you go, man. Cool.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, man. You're welcome. Yeah, that's me awkwardly handling a social situation. Thanks. Yeah, thanks. Anyway,
I tell you, that's something I've struggled with sometimes. Like, especially if I'm working a show, if I'm running lights or I'm running sound at a show, you know, as an agent or primarily, you know, I've worked as a manager for a few different bands, and you know, it's very hard for me to lose the focus on the band's performance and have conversations with people. I've had moments where I was like, you know, someone would talk to me and I'd be very short or they wouldn't have my attention, and I'd be like, ooh, was I rude just then? I don't know. I feel like I'm stuck in between a rock and a hard place right now, because I'm kind of supposed to be the guy that talks to everybody, but I'm also supposed to be the guy that's totally focused on what I'm doing, and it's got to be the best of both worlds right now. It's hard.
Yeah, I can play that role, but it's not who I am. And when people when people get past the veneer of hi, I'm being polite, it's intentionally terrifying. Because I don't like for people to waste my time, and I'm old enough now that I can start being shitty about it and just being like, nah, don't waste my time. I got bigger fish to fry.
Yeah.
And so I don't mind it as much. But my OCD and my social anxiety is just, it takes a lot of effort for me to do that.
It looks like I just took a look for the comments for the first time. It looks like Tyler Max is about to be on the scene. Tyler, you watching right now, boy? I know you probably are.
Oh, is he coming this way?
Yeah, he's probably at Paradise over there right now. Tyler, if you're here, come to the back parking lot and say hello. We'll get you. We'll get you on the podcast.
Come hop in the car, man. I've been talking to Tyler about coming on. I've been trying to talk to everybody. If there's,
you should be like, what you should do in the future is you should have like a few guests, and rather than having it be a podcast, like a David Letterman style show. You know,
we've done that.
Like my next guest, and then he gets in the back seat.
Yeah.
You know?
We haven't done that. We will definitely do that
amazing.
soon. We will line it up.
Put
and just
that in your
fill
pocket
up the car.
and take that idea with you.
Yes, we will. We haven't choreographed it, but it's happened. I was sitting with my buddy Matt Mosley, and you can go back and check the archive. Graham Cracker Clark, both local comedians, showed up to the open mic that we were early to film, to record an episode, and Matt and I were cracking each other up so bad that Graham could hear us in his car across the parking lot.
Yeah.
And so he came to investigate, and he just climbed in, and we just built
Nice.
We just collected people. So we will definitely do that, but I think we need to we need to do that, and then we need to do the version where Jonathan Newton called Preston Stanfield and said, meet us downstairs.
Yeah.
And we swooped Preston and got him to tell the story, a couple stories, but I think we got him to tell the Rascal Flatts story that night, if I remember correctly.
The Rascal Flatts story.
Yeah, Preston knew all those cats before they became Rascal Flatts. He was playing with a couple of different people and helped introduce them to each other. He did introduce them to each other. Without Preston, they would not have gotten together.
Preston's a tremendous player.
Yeah.
Jammer.
Man, he's got some great stories too. I can't wait to get him on and get him to talk to people, like some of the stuff that he's been through just as a player. Not to mention the big ride and the big show that he's been on, but just, some of the stuff the lessons he's learned. Yeah. I've learned a lot listening to that kind of stuff. I guess that's the best context to put it in, is he tells some great stories and has experienced some cool stuff.
Got some good anecdotes.
Indeed. Yeah, there are lots of people that I've been trying to get on, so if...
Who's on your short list? Maybe we can apply some pressure.
Who's on the short list?
Yeah.
Anybody that's on my friend list on Facebook. I have people come up to me and say, hey, can I be on your podcast?
Oh,
and
yeah,
I
but
say
that's
yes.
that's your long list. Who's on your short list? Not your short show.
Man, well, around town, the usual. My buddy Justin Headley is at the top, because he and I miss each other all the time. And he is way at the top of, we should have done it a long time ago. But then after that, the same circle that you run in with Hart and Mac and Owen hadn't been on the show yet, and all the cats that have been over to the camper out at my place that I've worked with at the Bama. That would be another way to narrow it down. All the people that I worked with that never got in on the PKPR thing, or weren't there while we were doing it. So
I actually never got to go by the camper.
Let's see. Well, y'all need to come by the camper then.
Maybe I'll bring John and the gang over there one day, and we'll have a throwdown.
Not in the middle of the night, you won't. That's what got us in trouble last time.
Well, I don't mean in the middle of the night. I mean, we can have a daytime throwdown, whatever. And I don't mean throwdown.
We gotta have a big
party.
cookout. We gotta have a big cookout.
Dude,
I got a big
that would
grill that's underused. That's the other thing I want.
Are you going to be the grill master in that podcast? Like I'm imagining the angle of the
I can
camera.
be.
You're sitting in there. You've got your kilt with like what's the an apron on.
Oh yeah,
flipping patties.
Grill master.
Chef hat.
Just call me Ron Swanson.
I'll take all of the bacon.
I'm afraid what you heard was bring me bacon and eggs. What I meant was
bring me all the bacon.
Bring me all the bacon and eggs. Yeah. Fuck yeah, man. That dude, I don't know if you're into stand-up comedy, but Nick Offerman's Hour special on Netflix, American Ham.
I've seen it.
Oh, oh, God. I hope to write something half that funny one day. He's incredible. Absolutely incredible. So let's see. Back to the short list. Let's see. There's... Of course, Joe Rogan is way up at the top of people that I would love to interview, just because he is one of the people that does podcasts the way that I like to do podcasts, which is I just want to sit down and have a conversation with somebody. Yeah. And of course, he is kind of the son of that everyone else orbits around. I think that's a Russell Brand quote when it comes to podcasting. But then you get into the fun guys like Graham Hancock. I would love to sit down and talk to Graham. I would also love to sit down and talk to a lot of guys in the philosophy field about what's going on ethically and social media wise. Like Michio Kaku is a physicist that I would be interested in talking to. Ray Kurzweil. I don't know if you know who.
I don't know who that is.
Ray Kurzweil. Ray Kurzweil is the guy that invented Kurzweil synthesizers.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's a futurist.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
Started this whole thing up in the Northeast called Kurzweil Institute, and they get smart people together that have similar ideas, and they find funding. Like once they get these people that need to be gotten together, They find ways to fund them, and they come up with all kinds of cool stuff. It's kind of like a public DARPA. It's kind of where they're headed. It's neat stuff.
I listened to some Joe Rogan podcast on the way back from Okeechobee. This is a pretty long drive. My schedule sometimes gets pretty stacked.
Yeah, man, I love road trips. Like I used to listen to audiobooks before the podcasts were heavily available. I imagine now I haven't done a long road trip. That's another thing that I want to do with the podcast is, have you seen the Stories from the Road or from the tour bus or whatever it is?
I'm not sure.
It's.
I've seen Jam in the Van.
That's fucking awesome. Who did you see on Jam in the Van? Mike Love was the one I saw.
I've seen a lot of them, but that was actually the first time I had ever heard Marcus King.
Really?
From Jam in the Van, yeah.
That's an interesting combo. First,
yeah, I was very fortunate to actually be a part of a Marcus King bill. Had Post Pluto on the South Sounds Festival in Mobile.
Cool.
And it was us, Jimmy Lumpkin and the Revival from Skate Mountain, and Marcus King. And it was funny, like, I've never been a man who's grown a lot of hair on the top of my head. I've always made up for it on the bottom. So I'm an appreciator of hats. And I walked up to Marcus and I was like, hey, it's very nice to meet you. I'm happy to be on the bill. I'm the manager for Post Pluto. I said, you're a great player.
Yeah.
I was like, but on another subject, like, I have another question for you. Like, where in the world do you get your hat game from? And I feel like his answer was truthful, but also kind of like there's no way you're getting one of these hats kind of things, because he answered very short. I mean, it was in a humorous way, but he was like, yeah, I have a guy in North Carolina that makes them custom for me. And I was like, checks out. Yep, you're absolutely right. There's no way I'm going to get one of those hats. I'm friends with him on Facebook, and I like to follow his little stories. He's in France right now, and I know that he either got an endorsement from Stetson or he just went and balled out one day, because I remember seeing a picture from his front porch, and there was just like 8 boxes of Stetsons just stacked up, and I was like,
they were wanting his love.
Yeah, one of the two, never know.
They were hoping he'd wear one out in public.
Yeah. Talking about musicians, dude, that guy is the future of rock and roll right there. Like, he is. He just turned 22. 22 years old. He just turned 22, I think, 3 days ago.
I didn't realize.
Yeah, no, he was, I think when we did South Sounds, I don't even think that he was 21 yet.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure he was 20 the last time that he played South Sounds Music Festival.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Tyler Mack says he's actually still at home listening. I was really hoping you were going to join us, Tyler. Gosh.
That's okay. Soon.
It's fine. I wanted to have a guest.
We can work that out. Now you're going to have to ask Tyler if you can be a guest on his podcast.
Tyler. Can I come be a part of the dog pack?
Sure.
I always refer to Tyler as the dirtiest of the dogs.
The dirtiest of the dogs?
Tyler, he's got those dirty notes. All the dirty notes, all the fast notes, and all the freaking loud notes. That's T-Mac. I have a lot of nicknames for Tyler. I love my favorite one, and I remember the first time I was talking to him, and I used it, and he just died about it. I was like, when you get really lost and you're doing your thing and you black out, and he's like, yeah. I was like, you know what they call that? And he goes, what? I said, a temaculous conception.
That's a good one.
Maybe that'll be the name of his next record.
Oh, a temaculous conception. Temaculous. I'm definitely going to find a way to say that into a microphone soon.
Yeah, we got to use that on his show. That can be the name of the episode.
Yes.
Do you have titles for the episodes?
Yeah, I do now. For that one, I do.
Tyler Mack,
Temaculous
conception.
That's great. That's great.
Maybe we need to get together and do some creative, slogan work.
Yeah, you should. You should. Please. I'm learning to be creative. That's what this whole stand-up comedy thing has become about for me.
Yeah, I could never do stand-up comedy. I feel like naturally I'm a humorous individual, but it's all very in the moment, like quick wit. I don't know if I have the potential to be able to stand and consistently, deliver.
I don't. But I can stand up there and take a trashing. Like I can take a bombing. So I'm still here. Still here. No, it's fun. It's fun learning how to.
Yeah, I'm
to crack
definitely. I'm stoked that you're doing something tonight. Between later tonight we get probably. So I'm glad probably gonna be able to stop by for a minute and be able to check you out because I haven't been able to see a comedy stand up from you before yet.
That's because I haven't.
Actually, I remember the first time that I saw you in a long while. That was the first time that I learned you even did it.
Yeah, well, I just started doing it. I've only been doing it since September, so I still have all kinds of legitimate reasons to suck. I'm milking that for all it's worth.
Is this your routine? Like
it is now,
and just clobber yourself, beat yourself down on the ground.
No, just being realistic. Being realistic. I'm apprehensive and self-conscious about being on a bill tomorrow night, which I have material and it'll go well. But that's one of the things that I hope is going to serve me well in this adventure. Is I'm hypercritical of myself and of always wanting to do better. And I'm hoping that will help me learn how to write jokes and be funny on demand out of the things I already know how to do well. Like I know how to stand on stage and I get those things, but that's not what comedy is in its entirety. Those things are very small pieces that help. And so I guess I'm just honest with myself about knowing that there is X amount of time that you have to stand on a stage and be uncomfortable before you ever get over that. And so, not that that's the goal to go up there and be uncomfortable, but I just don't get fazed by it when it happens. And so I don't mind talking about it, and I don't mind being honest about it when it happens, because there's no way to get over it if you're not.
Yeah, well, they say, like, if you're not uncomfortable, you're not growing.
Right.
With discomfort, that's what leads to that.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
I think that's a natural...
Well, and sooner or later, I'll be uncomfortable enough to write a funny joke. So far, I've written like a handful. But like you, I'm better anecdotally than and quick wit. So when someone pipes up while I'm talking on the microphone, I get all giddy in the face. One of my friends called me out on it. He's like, I've never seen anyone get so excited to be heckled.
Yeah.
And because that gives me something to go off of, and I am well prepared for that. So that's kind of a fallback for me. But since you mentioned it, I'll plug it for the none of you watching on Facebook. Thursday nights, we warm out. We've been at this for 70 minutes.
We have.
Yeah, so Facebook. Everybody on Facebook said...
We have one listener.
That just chimed in. That's you.
Oh, is that me? Oh, damn it. No, there's two.
Oh, there's two.
No, there's two. I just got back on, and that made
legit.
Two. No, there's someone.
That's
I'm pretty sure it's T-Mac.
Thank you, Tyler.
Tyler's staying strong with us.
Heck yeah, man. Most people on Facebook can't make it past the 45-minute mark. Hey, man, the fact that anybody tunes in at all is amazing. But plug-wise, I've got, let's see, Tuesdays at the Back Porch are open mic. Wednesdays are the Blind Mule in Mobile, open mic comedy. And Thursdays in Pensacola at the Olive Drop at 8 o'clock. And then Shooters at Cordova Lanes late night. And then Back Porch Fridays in Pensacola. That's my weekly lineup.
Hell yeah. It's pretty busy.
It's not bad.
Week. Yeah.
We're working on growing more. I've been working with a friend and a business partner on trying to get more shows out on the coast side, and just keep growing the scene. I feel like comedy is something that goes hand in hand with live music, and the fact that they've grown so far apart makes our weird culture more possible.
Yeah.
But in the days when comedy and music were tight and you could see comedians and good musicians together, there was something about that just you can't throw as much bullshit around when you've got incredibly talented musicians and incredibly talented comedians. Yeah. Because then you have artistry and voice at the same time in two very distinct ways, which shut down bullshit like no other. Like Lenny Bruce. You look back to Lenny Bruce opening up for these crazy music acts and able to pull it off, and you're just like, holy shit.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen something like that.
It's impressive.
Very recently at all.
No, it doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen anymore. The one I can think of is Bill Burr on stage in Philadelphia just eating shit for 15 minutes because it's a music concert and people aren't there to see comedy, and so he just goes out there and rails the crowd, and it's brutal.
I can imagine.
Brutal. But no one could have done it but Bill Burr. And Well, but again, this is me learning on the fly. I've been a fan of comedy my whole life, but I didn't start talking into a microphone specifically to be funny until September.
Yeah.
So I got a long way to go.
You're a funny
but
guy.
I fucking love it, man. Fucking love it. It's addictive. Absolutely addictive. So that gets my plugs out of the way. Before we get out of here, how do people find you? How do people find Scent Entertainment? Where do you want them to go? In case someone's looking to go, where do we send them?
That's the greatest thing I love about, I had a eureka moment. Honestly, I was a little drunk when I thought of it, but it came to me and I was like, yes. It had been, man, it took me so long to figure it out, and when it hit, I mean, it was like a light bulb, and it was a beautiful light bulb.
Of course.
And yeah, it definitely was that eureka moment. But right now, you can find it on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. Actually, I'm about to be posting some footage, actually an entire set, actually 2 whole sets from the Rebirth Brass Band show.
Oh, cool.
From Big Jam Space Driver's set.
Yeah.
But Facebook at Scent Entertainment Co. Instagram at Scent Entertainment Co. Facebook or YouTube, same thing. www.scententertainmentco.com. That page still has a little bit of work to do.
Sure.
It's basically right now it's a landing page, but I'm gonna have the problem that I'm having right now is figuring out a way to source. I have a roster now of I'm getting close to 15 bands that I work with.
That's a good stable.
Yeah, and not in an exclusive way. I don't want to be a guy that, comes in, talks to a band, and is like, yeah, I can help you out. Let me take over your business and all the rooms that you've booked yourself in. Now I'm the guy who's going to do that, and I just want to take a percentage. That doesn't add value.
Right.
Everything that I want to do with artists is all about adding value where I can and exploring new possibilities, not being somebody that's just a middleman, because it's not productive. It doesn't do good things for the scene.
I agree with that.
And it gives bad representation to people who want to do that for real. And that's something that I've even had problems with from people that have booked music in the past in this scene. That definitely did become something more along like that, and now there are some venues or rooms, not specific to Pensacola necessarily, but just in the southeast region that I've run across that are like, yeah, we don't work with any agency or any agent, period. Even ones that I had worked with previously were like, and I had multiple groups at the same time then, and I'm like, yeah, like I understand that notion, but have you ever had a cancellation from me, or a mishap, or a band show up late, or any type of unprofessional, action happen with any artist that I've had? And they're like, no. I'm like, then I don't quite understand it. But at the same time, whatever. There's places I don't need to work with anyway.
Some people make their own lives difficult. I've learned very much recently that the vast majority of people are just walking around talking to mirrors that they pretend are other people.
Yeah.
And it's that empty. It's that vapid, and just there's nothing there. So people, I imagine, who make broad, overarching generalizations in relationship to art and the way that art should be fostered and handled, probably need to go talk to Samuel Clemens about how generalizations are not accurate, including this one.
Yeah. Well, there is a lot of the, particularly when you start getting into booking music, especially in a very local setting of a region. There are politics to the way that things work.
Oh, I fucking hate politics.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of it either, but I also know that it exists and it's something you have to navigate. But yeah, generally, something that's new. It's growing every single day, and I'm excited to. I've had people that have reached out to me and been like, I see a lot of information going around and a lot of people talking about, what you're doing, and it's refreshing to hear that, because, especially for me, because it's something that, it's not me working behind a band as a manager. It's not. This is something that's of my own that I'm only literally 6 weeks into. I have over 100 music events already scheduled for this year. And big launch party, April 28th at Shizuko.
That's right, April 28th.
It is going to be the jam.
Can't wait.
Actually, it's going to be the big jam. Big jam space driver, baby.
April 28th at Shizuko's. What time?
Doors will open at 8. Show will start at 9.
Good. That'd be fucking perfect. Fucking perfect. I'm trying to think of anything else. I was going to ask you about universal basic income for artists, but we're going to save that for part 2. So you can line up a guest.
We'll be back. Yeah, I'll line up some guests. Always good to see you, Compton.
Chris Akridge, thank you so much for joining us. We'll sign off on Facebook. There it is, Sin Entertainment, everybody. Facebook, hasta la vista, truth, love, and peace to y'all on YouTube.